everyone, it's Kim Elton here for Ventry Innovations, Ventry Life, and Price's Farms. And when I say here, I mean we're here in Uganda, Africa. And I've been here for the last 6 weeks. Started out just 4 weeks. We've had a lot of work we wanted to do here. And of course, I have my son, Aaron Elton, here. He's the founder of the company. He's the CEO, the head of the company. He's the arms, the legs, the head, the feet, the voice. And we do the best we can to help him out. Now, I have a bit of an apology to start with because I mentioned to a lot of people that I was coming here, that we had a lot of things we needed to do, and we're going to be working on we've been working on a documentary, so I was shooting a lot of video and going to give them updates along the way. Well, as it turns out, we were so busy and we were on the road so much that we never really got a chance to other than transfer all the files at the end of the evening and put them on a hard drive.
And so survive another day.
That's right. So what I want to do now, because we're here in Entebbe, which is, our head office is in Kampala, where Aaron lives, and of course the farm, which is up in the north in Lake Choga. And we've been going around to different places, different projects that we're working on. A lot of it going on in Kampala, special events. I'll have you talk about some of that and give us a bit of an overview.
Yeah.
But just really want to say, it's been very hot, and that's very tiring, and so it takes a long time to get things done in Uganda.
It's not easy.
I thought I'd be like about 3 weeks, and then 2 weeks into it, I said, hey, I better book another 3 weeks here.
Yeah.
So we're here now in Entebbe, which is where the airport is, and I'm actually headed back tonight. And over the next couple of days, I imagine I'm just going to rest up, and we'll start deploying some of that footage that we've got. So, well, where should we start? We made a trip. We made 2 trips to the farm.
Well, you mentioned the documentary. Maybe I could start there, and I could explain what the documentary is all about. Because I think one of the key things that I wanted to do with this trip, having all these fancy gadgets.
Yeah. It's the microphone.
Is it okay? Is
it I just wanted to point
it's satisfactory to you? Okay,
yes,
leave it alone.
Okay.
So having Kim come over here and work with us to be able to capture some really high quality 4K video with 2 different cameras and really high quality microphones like this gives us sort of the meat and potatoes of what we need to be able to cut together a documentary about moringa and the moringa tree. Because when you go online, you find a lot of anecdotal people talking about testimonials. You find different types of doctors and different types of like social media people doing one-offs and shorter pieces about moringa. But there's never really been something done that really explains how it's being utilized in all the different ways in the countries where it's growing.
And the social aspects of
and
all
the
that.
social aspects and everything that's going on. So what I wanted to do was expose what I see every day in the work that we're doing as Ventry in the field for the world to see that, and to do it in such a way that, number one, it's promoting moringa, because as the documentary unfolds, you're learning about all the different benefits of it. It's not just a health food, it's also a fertilizer, one of the best fertilizers, one of the best organic fertilizers. So as we're having a global crisis in fertilizers, well, in comes moringa. If we do it in mass, we plant tens of billions of these trees. It's a great way to offset carbon in the atmosphere. It's a great way to increase food production, and so on and so forth. So because the benefits are so multitudinous and so big, and there's so many of them, I felt like it was absolutely necessary for us at a certain point in time, which is now, to create a documentary that will also, the second thing that it's going to accomplish for us as a company is it's going to put us sort of at the forefront of the media attention online. If we do a good job with the documentary, we put a bit of money behind it, and we release it on hopefully maybe even Netflix Africa, because Netflix Africa is now open. We have direct connections with them. And so if we do a good job with it, they can even kick in some financing for us to finish that. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to accomplish here. Take the wonderful footage that we've captured over the last 6 weeks and create a sort of pilot that we can then shop around and get the right partners behind it to turn it into a feature documentary, like, anywhere between 40 to 60 minutes. It doesn't have to be long, but I want it to be powerful, I want it to be to the point, and I wanted it to be sort of like a definitive piece for people out there who are just learning about moringa for the first time to click on that documentary and say, you know what, that was amazing.
And I should say that, when you first came to Africa, you were in the media business, you were in the hip-hop business, you had hip-hop, and he has a lot of connections within that community. And so we're very well connected that way. And one of our interviews will be, we've done one already, there'll be more with Navio. You want to tell us about Navio?
Yes.
He's our brand ambassador for our product, Moringa, and he's a Moringa user, and he's just really excited about it.
Yeah. And so Navio is considerably one of the best hip hop artists in all of Africa. He's extremely talented. He's a lovely personality. He's down to earth. You'll see it in the media clips. You'll see it in the social media and all the different types of interviews that he does. And so actually his core focus with us is to be the ambassador for the anti-malnutrition campaign, which is the Moringa for Kids campaign.
Moringa for Kids.
Which, not unlike every other CSR program in the world, again, is a double-edged sword because it markets what we're doing. It gives us more exposure in the NGO world and in the Sustainable Development Goals spheres of influence out there, which are, as we all know, getting more and more attention. And Navio has actually previously done a lot of work for NGOs, raising awareness and sensitizing communities because he's a passionate, philosophical, and a heartfelt gentleman who actually wants the best for Africa. He's not just in the music industry just to make money. He doesn't care.
Particularly the youth.
Yeah, so Navio's not the type of guy who's just in the industry just to get rich and get famous. He's there to do the art. And the art comes from his passion about, being an African, being a Ugandan, and representing that space and holding that space to show youth in Africa that there is a better way to behave and think and process your life, because a lot of them are suffering. So we see Navio as this incredible ambassador, an incredible partner with us.
Celebrity.
We've got a really good royalties contract. It took about a year and a half. Actually, it was before COVID we started talking about it. So COVID put us back by 2 years. Then we picked it up. A year later, we were able to get it done. So that was really good. And so we're rolling with Navio now. Everything's going very well. And what else could I say? He just recently became the ambassador as well for CARE International, which is a huge step forward. And this is exactly what him and I were anticipating. You're not just here to sell Moringa powder. That's going to happen intrinsically. You're here to promote anti-malnutrition through an African solution to an African problem. And it's actually a global problem because we're all realizing that whatever's happening in the tropical communities where deforestation and degradation and human inequity is actually impacting all of us. Okay, so the forests of Africa are being destroyed because people don't have the right business platforms to be able to do their agricultural systems better to maintain those forests and maintain those food supplies. And in turn, we have less carbon sequestration, we have less biodiversity, soil fertility is going out the window, the carbon is being released from the soils because the soils are being burnt and eroded by sunshine and heavy rains. And so realistically, like, Navio plugs in with us, we plug in with the Moringa tree plugs in with the overarching global campaign of, hey, let's reforest our territories, feed people. And when you see international organizations, the scale of which, CARE International represents, starting to also take a guy like Navio, I mean, I'm just an individual identifying him as somebody that we should work with. And people say, why would you hire a rapper to market a health food product?
Well, he's
a celebrity. Well, because I'm highly creative about how I think about what I do. And then now, just recently, you see that CARE International, which is one of the largest NGOs in the world. I mean, it's one of the largest charities in the world. And one of their primary motives is to reduce malnutrition, targeting youth malnutrition. So that just goes to show you that the strategies that we've been developing for years and the way in which we're choosing, hand-picking the relationships as a business, it's on point with some of what we can say is the largest NGOs in the world. Yeah. Let's
just step back a little bit. Moringa for Kids started by offering the Moringa to orphanages, to schools, and so on. It's built out from there. We have a...
Yeah, that's right. So another big accolade and accomplishment that's just happened since you've been here, actually. A lot has happened since you've been here. It's incredible.
The health departments are...
So the district government, so you have over 100 districts in Uganda, and in order for us to scale the Moringa for Kids program legally and effectively, number one, we had to get UNBS certified, which we did. Again, we recertified, which is great. We're the only UNBS certified Moringa powder in the country currently. with that, we were able to then go back to the district leadership in our district and say, look, we want to start this campaign. This is what it is. And it didn't take them more than about 3 days to consider it. A couple conversations. I brought Navio in, the silver bullet, you know, because everybody knows him. It's like, oh, Navio's here in our district office, you know. And we had a good powwow with them, and you have what's called the LC5, and then you have the district production officer, and they all sit together, and the RDC, there's all these different roles, and they signed an official MOU stating that they encourage all the health centers in the district. I think there's 12. Okay.
To distribute them.
And it's estimated that there's around 500,000 citizens in Cayuga District, and easily 20 to 30% of them
children
are malnourished children, easily. So we don't nearly have enough product yet to roll out the whole district. So we're targeting and focusing on the sickest people, the people who are turning up with health problems, to the health workers who are registered nurses, registered doctors, certified, you know, PhD level village workers who actually grasp and understand the value of these types of nutritional things. So the campaign now is working in earnest with those village health workers, and that's really the exponential way that this can grow.
Get distribution.
Yeah. So each center that we turn on, they get 6 months of donations, and that whole community gets 6 months of donations. And then also seeds to start growing their own trees.
Yeah.
And again, it's a double-edged sword. We're having a direct impact on the malnutrition and educating people and helping them learn more about how the moringa tree works. And then the second side of it, the other sharp edge here, is that intrinsically we're creating our outgrowers network in preparation for the need to grow bigger as organizations like CARE International, Ministry of the Prime Minister, who are dealing with the refugee camps, get wind of this. And then, of course, any other donor agencies or any other government bodies out there like EU financing and World Bank financing who say, hey, you know what? I think, stopping malnutrition would be a really good first step towards reforesting the places in the world that we need to reforest in order to cool the planet down so that we can all frickin' survive. You know,
it's interesting. A lot of people don't make that connection.
No.
You know, what do you mean malnutrition and poverty cause
and that's what we want to expose.
Warming. And so you got to make that connection because these people are burning wood and slashing the forests.
And it's not an opinion.
It's
an absolute truth. It's not an opinion. And that's really why I've been out here for all these years fighting and struggling forward, is because the things that I've realized about the way in which the world is facing all of these damaging impacts of environmental destruction and so on, it all roots back to our culture and how we're treating each other and how we're investing our money into commercial activities which either ruin communities or build them up.
Earth care, people care, fair share.
Yeah.
That's the right thing to do, but also in this environment, in this world today, it's also really, really good business, and you can't have a lot of impact unless you have a really strong business. So I just want to say that, you know, we are a for-profit company, so we need to partner with CARE and we
NGOs who can finance
this. So we
this.
create these programs that we can give back. That's the people part of it, and so on and so forth. But now,
before we move on, one thing I would like to say so that people understand it is that when you look at the global situation of malnourishment in children causing cycles of poverty, which is resulting in the degradation of our environmental matrix, for lack of a better word, of our environment as a species, what you realize is that there's no better place to invest all of the donor money that we have other than into human health first. Because it's the health that enables them to learn, and it's the learning that enables them to change and improve the environment again. It doesn't go any other way. You can't put the cart before the horse. And that's the biggest problem that we have, is that a lot of the top level decision makers out there are only now starting to learn what is a sustainable development goal. It's a designed action. It's a designed goal. It's designed in such a way that it creates a web of connections that enable humanity to move in the right direction instead of the wrong direction. And that always relates back to the way we interact with the natural resources that give us and our children and our children's children the supply lines that they require to survive and thrive. And all of that is seemingly being threatened by global warming, which again relates back. So we're not just saying it's only malnutrition that's causing deforestation, but that's one of the key things that you first have to fix. Otherwise, nobody's going to be able to even retain the knowledge that you're giving them about how to and why to plant things like moringa trees, right? So
it gets very deep, but
yeah. So I don't want to ramble too much, but now you've got a little bit of that. So.
But now, well, staying on the moringa, moringa's food. It's a fertilizer. It's a fodder.
Yeah,
fodder.
It's
all
fish
these
feed.
things, wonderful things. It builds up. You know, if you use it properly, builds up the communities and provides them with all these wonderful things that we talk about. But it also sequesters a lot of carbon.
Right. So that's
it's
the
a
other
huge carbon sequestering machine that drives the takes the carbon out of the air and puts it back in the ground. So tell us about that.
So moringa has 17,000 stomata per leaf.
Per leaf. That's the little hair on the leaf.
Most plants, that's the opening that exchanges gases, and most leaves have between 4,000 to 7,000 stomata. So moringa is able to breathe more than most other plants. So it's similar to bamboo. It's similar to hemp in the way that it grows so bloody fast. And because of that, therefore, you get quite a bit of carbon. And when we concluded the scoping report with Dr. Jenny Farmer, who took all of the field data that we were able to capture under her directives, it turned out that our carbon model looks like it is the best carbon offset model under the agroforestry methodology, which is to say you're still growing food where you're planting the carbon offset trees.
And this isn't just planting trees and letting them grow.
No, it's row crops. It's managed. It's a managed system. So the trees create the fertilizer that go into the row crops. The row crops create the revenue that enable the families who get into this system to make true wealth. And then you also add bees in there as another layer. You can add chickens in there as another layer, and you can just keep improving on it. And then the end result is, as your orchard matures, you're continually getting these verified carbon credit funds into the farms themselves, because a minimum of 60% must go into the farmers themselves and the landscape itself. But the end result is, aside from having the carbon credits, which is very, very, very big, it's a very exciting time for financing projects like this and reforestation. But with the moringa tree, it produces a prolific amount of oil, okay, which can be processed down into biodiesel, and the byproduct is glycerin, which is for soap and cosmetics and dynamite if you want, but the glycerin. So you get this incredible source of glycerin. The seed cake is an animal feed, okay, and a fertilizer, okay, and an industrial grade flocculant that can actually be used to flocculate water bodies, if you want to look that up. I'm not going to get into that. But the point is the biodiesel from this orchard model is a carbon negative fuel. Okay? So when we reach that level, this is kind of like phase 3 of the carbon orchard model, we have what's called a self-energizing industry. And that's what a truly sustainable company is it's something that has an unlimited ability to rejuvenate the energies and the consumables that it's using. So that biofuel, which is made from moringa, has about 13 credits. So 13 tons have been sequestered for every 1,000 liters.
1 credit equals 1 ton.
1 ton of carbon. And so even after burning 1,000 liters, let's say you're putting it in your tractors, you're putting it in your factories, you're putting it in your water pumps and all this, even after burning it, the amount of exhaust that goes off is only around 800 kilos. And it had an original footprint of -14. So you're down to about -13 carbon credits, or -13,000 kilos.
Negative is good.
Yeah.
Positive is bad.
Yeah, -13,000 kilos per 1,000 liters of biodiesel that's consumed. It might sound convoluted hearing this for the first time, but you can look it up. There was a lot of research.
Talking a lot about this.
There was a lot of research that was done out of Australia in 2008, where they actually proved that.
Okay.
And the proof is there.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's that. Yeah.
Well, let's move on, because we had a number of events that we attended and documented. One was with our partner, the International University of East Africa.
Yes, that relationship has been going
And
very, very
you
well.
had an announcement just recently as well. Do you
Yeah,
want
we
to talk
did.
about
Well, I got the Global Peace Ambassadorship through Word of Life Ministries, which is under a consultative status with the United Nations. And what they do is they train global peace ambassadors, and then they give you your certificates and your
badge?
your badge.
You got the badge.
I've got the badge somewhere. It's
I'll
over
put
there.
it up.
We'll put it
I'll
up.
put it up here.
And so I went through that training program with Wolmai, and it was fantastic. It was a really great training. And to me, it was refreshing to be in a Zoom room, not a room, but so to speak, in a room with other like-minded people who are being recognized for their works.
By the UN.
And that's kind of what Wolmai is doing. Well, Wolmai is recognized by the UN, and Wolmai is going after people like myself who have lived a dedicated life to creating more peace in the world. And so it was His Excellency Dr. Neil Holder, Atoki is his pet name from the Toro Kingdom. He's the ambassador to the King Oyo, His Royal Majesty King Oyo. And he recognized the work that I had done over the course of the many months that we've been putting together the MOUs with the kingdom and with the king in preparation for building out a much more improved model of agriculture in Uganda.
This is one of the partners, one of the projects we're working on is coming along.
Yeah, so that's a great thing. It's kind of elevated my status a little bit. It's really just a great way to recognize the fact that there are people like myself out there who do nothing but eat, sleep, and live.
And it opens doors.
Global
too.
peace. Yeah. It elevates me. And just before my 40th birthday, right? It's like I'm turning 40 and all these great, wonderful things are happening, which is just amazing. Now, the International University of East Africa, things have been going really, really well with them. We've successfully onboarded 3 projects since I started working with them. Plastics recycling, electric tractor and agricultural hubs project. And then there's a few other coming in like Track FM, which is going to be one of our new partners on the Moringa for Kids program, who do the most amazing what's it called? Not paleontology. This is the study of dinosaurs, isn't it? Sorry, the heat is getting to me.
We're in a restaurant, by the way.
Anthropological. They do the most incredible anthropological research, which is to understand how projects are being received by rural villages in Africa by using the radio station in conjunction with SMS software that gives them thousands and thousands and thousands of responses
data, feedback
from people who are otherwise relatively unreachable. And so Track FM is amazing. And then we have hydrogen projects on the rise coming through the university. We've got the relationship with Blue Sky Carbon out of not Beijing, but out of Hong Kong, connected to Beijing, of course, because China wants to increase its carbon offsets, and it wants to improve the way in which carbon offsets are accessible on the market. And it also wants to participate by financing massive restoration projects. And a lot of people don't realize this, but China has actually done the largest restoration projects in the world.
Well, they have the most to pay for.
I forget the name, but it's John Liu, I think, who did I forget the name, but they did 34,000 square kilometers they restored in China, and they did an absolutely bang-up job of it. Like 15 years later, that whole region of China has a much more ecologically friendly footprint, much higher level of household income. I think they increased household incomes over the 15 years by like 100%.
It seems to me that in the microcosm, what we've been doing, lifting people up lifts everything up. The food gets better, the crops improve, everything works better if people are respected.
The environments are being destroyed because, number one, people don't really have any other alternatives. And even if they did have other alternatives right in front of them, they don't have the education or somebody saying, hey, here's an opportunity. Classic example is the moringa tree. Fidel Castro told everybody in Cuba when they were going through their down, they were being sanctioned or whatever.
Downturn, yeah.
Fidel Castro said everybody should have a moringa tree or a few moringa trees. And it's one of the few countries in the world, statistically, look it up, there's absolutely no instance of malnutrition in Cuba. Now, I don't know whether you would say, well, that's because they're a communist country and maybe they're fudging the data, but the proof is in the pudding. I mean, go out there and look at what he did and how every Cuban you meet has been eating moringa since they were a young child because it's that good at staving off malnutrition. And that's an example of saying, like, look, Uganda has moringa trees growing everywhere. I see them everywhere I go. But why don't we plant billions of them, since they're good for the environment, and since they can stop malnutrition, and since they can create alternative fertilizer supply and alternative fuel supplies to run all of our tractors, which then in turn go out into the fields and keep tilling the soil, and giving us what we need.
Okay, what else? Because we gotta make the deal.
I'm coming back to the biodiesel again. It's really the crescendo moment for our companies when we start producing that stuff. What else?
I want to say one thing. I want you to just comment on this, because when we went out to the farm the first time, it was so hot. It had been so hot for a long time.
Blazing, yeah.
And trees tend to hibernate, or in northern climates, when the winters come, they drop their leaves and they kind of hibernate. They're not dying. They're just turning their resources into something else. You don't always know what's going on. But you were mentioning, you came up to the farm, and there was some of the trees had started to flower.
Oh yeah,
and it's a very white.
Well, it's a reaction to the weather.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a second, because I think that's very important. When these trees shut down, there's still a lot going on, and it really was kind of unusual that the answer to the question, what should we do about all this hot weather, is we're going to push out flowers. Well, that's easier for them to do, and they create seeds or whatever. So
it's an example of the sophistication of nature.
Yes.
And how we can take lessons from nature to say, hey, when global warming, like for us as a species, we're looking at our planet is heating up, what should we do? Produce a lot of seedlings and plant them and drop them everywhere.
Rather than just wait.
And that's where the seed pucks come in, and so on and so forth.
It looked like when you saw the trees, you come through the forest, if it hadn't been so hot, you thought it was snowing, because it was all white and all white on the ground. So there's a good metaphor there for our business.
Well, absolutely, and that's
growing.
what sustainable design science is all about, is it's learning from nature. Look at what Mother Nature has been doing for billions of years, and then mimic it, but in the way that it gives you strawberries and whipped cream.
One more thing I want to touch on, because we have a friend, his name's Nick DeCooney, and we got a lot of footage on him and what he's been doing in
Uepo,
in Uepo. And he actually, a few years back, bought some property very close to where we
18 kilometers
from us. We went up there, we interviewed him, we talked to his staff, we saw what he's doing. It's a different approach, but man, he's going to start using our processing. And
Nick is a workhorse. I mean, he's in his
You'll really enjoy that.
I think he's in his later 60s, and he works every single day as if he's a 25-year-old, And he says, I think he takes 10 moringa capsules every day. Because I stayed with him once, and he was just constantly packing them back. And we asked him, we said, why do you take it? He said, energy. It gives me all my energy,
Yeah.
It hasn't grown his hair back yet.
Really neat guy, not like me.
Chia. Anyways, what else? So with the International University of East Africa, one of the big relationships that's developing right now is with Blue Sky Carbon. They have access to the top LIDAR institute out of China, which is the Wuhan LIDAR Institute. And they have access to the 4th generation forestry and terrestrial monitoring satellites for monitoring carbon flux.
So there's really a network of universities throughout the world. So Chicago, University of Chicago.
I'll explain it. So they've chosen to work with us and to start developing a conglomerate. We wanted to call it the Carbon Conglomerate of Africa, something like this, but that name was kind of taken already, no surprise there. But the point is to start from the International University of East Africa, set up the main data center, the data core, where we have the servers, because we're talking trilobytes and trilobytes and trilobytes of data. They can scan entire countries. Once a country says, yes, we want to be scanned, they can scan the entire country down to each and every individual tree, and the AI software in this institute can identify individual species of trees.
So this is validation.
We are going to have access to the top level data available on the planet from space of exactly what's happening to the forest.
So explain that a little more in detail.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Okay, sorry. But they can tell the size of the tree, the species of tree, how That's how they
I
measure
have
the
not.
credits.
I have not yet personally seen the data or the software how it works. I have vetted the companies; they're real. The Wuhan LiDAR Institute is real. The software was originally developed out of NASA, and then they brought it back to China as well when Trump shut down the program or something like this. I don't know the whole story, but basically the professor, I believe is Professor Wu, behind this is considerably one of the top remote sensing experts in the world. He's written most of the biggest papers on it.
Okay.
And so it's an amazing team of scientists behind this project, and it will give us absolute clear, crystal clear data. And the whole objective of this platform is to reduce the reduce the time that it takes to verify carbon credits, and to add another layer of security so that there's no double counting and people aren't just making up how many trees they plant and so on and so forth.
Validation,
Yeah, because you
verification.
can scan the country every quarter, let's say. So you can see exactly how many seedlings have been planted because it gets it down to like a micron on the ground. You know, and it has all these different sensors for gas exchange. So it uses laser technology to measure how much gas is being exchanged.
You'll happily see.
So it scans the country for like a week. And
Isn't it
during
an
that
amazing
week, it
world
sees
that
the
we live in?
flux. Yeah, even the sugar. It can even scan. There's I forget the name of it, something flux, but it can scan the sugar content in the forest. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's what we've been doing, and we're going to keep doing it. And I'm going to come out of hibernation now when I get back home and cool down a little bit,
Yeah. It's been
and
hot.
start
had-
outputting some of this.
I was just going to say we had ground temperatures of 62 degrees Celsius on the farm this dry season.
And yet, you know,
So
I
it is
have to
getting
say,
worse. I've never seen it that bad. This
But I have
was
to
the worst
say,
year
too,
yet, and I'm expecting it to get even worse
You
next
can
year.
see it and you can feel it, but it's been good management and irrigation and other things that we're doing to help the plants along. There's still a lot of green there. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
it's so. I don't want to say suffering anymore. It looks a little forlorn some of the areas, but they're just really waiting for that water. It started raining here 3 days ago in Kampala, and that moves north.
Oh, and the
so-
guys just called me today. They said it rained last night.
Oh, fantastic. So we're going to the rainy season now, and really within days, the
Yeah,
explosion
and then I can
of,
travel up there and not get heat stroke.
I had a bit of that too.
It's not fun.
So anyway, thank you. If you've listened this far, we're going to start coming out of hibernation, as I said, and speaking to you more frequently and keeping you up to date. And we've got an exciting year ahead. Things are starting to build into 2023. It's been a tough time through COVID and all of the other things hit.
Well, I could also, before we leave, talk about the markets. We're pushing into Japan now. Japan is starting to make more and more orders, so we're doing our third order to Japan very soon. These are small preliminary orders, but one of the things that Japan got back to us on is that they've got a contract, Yoshitoku Medical Corporation, that we're working with on an MOU. They just got acceptance to work directly with Mercari, which is basically the Amazon of Japan.
Okay.
So anything and everything. I mean, you can sell anything and everything there. It's like a mix between Amazon and Craigslist.
You
I
mean
don't know.
Amazon to buy the channel where you buy shit?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's exciting. So they're starting to ramp up. They've asked us to change the bag size so that they can fit more in
With
a
a smaller
box.
bag now.
Easier to ship, cheaper buy-in price for first-time users. And they're just so happy with the quality, which to me is
Everything.
when a Japanese scientists, a group of Japanese doctors, scientists say, "We love this powder, it's amazing, give us more." I'm just like, where's my little badge?
Well, we've had that come from users as well. You know.
So it's
People who
exciting,
know and-
and that's a really big accomplishment. I want everybody to know, and we've got people coming to us now. Just yesterday, we're at the handshake phase to push into South Sudan, which desperately needs products like this. And we're hopeful that soon we'll be in about 100 outlets in Uganda. But there's been some delays there because Uganda's just notoriously slow to roll out anything.
But we're making good inroads here.
Yeah.
We're in the stores. People know about us. It's growing organically.
Yeah, and there's a tipping point in Ugandan culture. Once an idea or a knowledge set about something gets to a certain amount of the population, then it just kind of exponentially grows, and all of a sudden everybody knows it. So it
And-
might take you 2 to 3 years to get to that tipping point, and then it'll take 6 months to finish off the other
so
80%
with
of the
Navio
population.
going in the radio station, we were listening to an interview.
We're almost
with him
there.
'cause he was just coming out with a new album, so they always
Yeah.
promote.
I think by the end of this year, every single Ugandan will know exactly what Moringa is all about.
At the end of his interview, what did he do?
Well, he received the
He
Moringa.
received the Moringa that we sent to him,
Yeah,
and he talks about us and what we're doing and what he's helping to help us
Yeah.
and so on, and that's going to catch on.
Yeah. And
Huge
we're
social
very,
media.
another thing I would like to get across is that we're very much looking forward to doing more donor-based distribution of Moringa, because you get better value out of it, because you're doing the manufacturing and the distribution and the outreach and follow-up with that money that comes in on that price point. Right? So we're not interacting with competitive international markets with companies that are just trying to turn a profit. We're actually just creating a true way for donor funds to go to where they need to go. That last mile where those kids are, where those families, those vulnerable communities are, for us to be able to then, move on and continuously roll the program out until such a point that it does become a commercialized product, because everybody knows how good it is.
Okay, so I'll be seeing some of you very soon, and we're planning to bring the boss to Canada here at some point, maybe this summer, and he'll do some touring around. And
It'll be 6 years I haven't been back.
Yeah. So I think that's all for now.
Yeah, thanks. That
Thank
was
you
good.
for watching.
Thanks for your time, everybody.
And I just wanted to say we're in a cafe here, and you can hear the noise in the background and some of the music and so on. I hope this comes through. We got our little
Yeah,
mics
it's
on.
good.
I think it'll be fine. So, and I'm hopping on a plane tonight, and look forward to getting back to Canada.
Good.
And as much as beautiful as it is here, there's no place like home, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Thanks again.
Bye for now.
Bye.